Hello everyone, welcome to a new episode of Echo-Based Gaming, our third episode already. And in this episode we will talk about new spoiler cards that they revealed and the Cunning Live that FG broadcasted.
Yeah.
So, take it away.
Yeah, I'll start with a new leader, Hera Syndulla, a command heroism leader, with the ability Ignore Aspect Penalty on Spectre cards you play. And the epic action is available when you control 6 or more resources. And she comes into play with a stat line of 4-6, and her traits are Rebel, Twi'lek, Spectre. And then on attack ability, you may give an experience token to another unique unit.
Okay. Yeah. So her stat line is a bit average.
Yeah, it's for a 6-cost leader, it's normal.
Yeah, not good or not bad
No.
either. But her ability sounds amazing to me.
Yeah.
Being able to play a multicolor Spectre deck, so having the whole gang of rebels in one deck is just very appealing to me.
Yeah.
And also, at first I thought it was just the units, but as we will see later, they also revealed Spectre event cards that will also enjoy the same ability.
Yeah.
So yeah, sounds very nice.
Yeah. We kind of expected something like this a little bit when they revealed the 3 Spectre units that were all different aspects. So we wouldn't be able to play them in the same deck. But now with Hera we actually can. So yeah, I think a Spectre deck sounds really cool. And like they said also in the live that there won't be a lot of Spectre decks in the first set. But the cards that we get are strong.
Yeah.
Also, Hera Syndulla is actually the first leader where I think that a double command aspect will be good, because you can play the Spectre cards without a penalty, so you can go multicolored on that. But to be able to play the command legendary without a penalty, also the command legendary is really good. It's a strong legendary. So yeah, I think Hera Syndulla is the first leader where I thought like maybe a double command aspect deck would be nice for her.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's also a nice thing. So yeah, the next card that was spoiled was an upgrade. Infiltrator skill. It's a 1-cost aggression. And it says attach unit gains saboteur. And the stat line is improved by 1. So 1/1.
Yeah. Okay.
So I think an amazing card for 1 cost. Because you increase your stat line by a 1/1, which is already good for a 1-cost resource. But to additionally gain Saboteur on that unit is a nice bonus.
Yeah, I think the Saboteur trait is very strong.
Yeah.
Not just bypassing Sentinel, but also being able to destroy shields is very strong.
Yeah.
The art, very nice. Jyn Erso from Rogue One.
Yeah.
So, yeah, nice card.
Yeah, nice card. Yeah, also really aggressive. So it suits the aspect, I would say. Yeah. So the next card is a space unit, the Devastator. It's a 10-cost command villainy unit. Yeah. So our first 10-cost unit actually. This is a stat line of 10/10 with the traits Imperial, Vehicle, Capital, Ship. And it has Sentinel and Overwhelm keywords. And when played, you may deal damage to a unit equal to the number of resources you control.
Okay.
So we haven't seen anything that decreases the cost of capital ships yet. So you can only play this card when you have 10 resources or more.
Yeah, but with an ability like that, I do expect something like that.
Yeah. So yeah, when this card comes into play, deal 10 damage. It's great.
Yeah.
A stat line of 10/10 with Sentinel and Overwhelm is amazing. Of course, this is also a 10-cost card, so it's late game.
Yeah. However, it's command, and command wants to ramp.
Yeah.
So yeah, it wouldn't be out of the ordinary that a command deck will reach the 10 resources.
Yeah. And I also expect something that decreases the cost of capital ships.
Something maybe that you know that I don't. Overwhelm. Does it also trigger on defense or only on attack?
Yeah.
Okay. That would be a bit too strong, I guess.
Yeah, it's only on attack. But Overwhelm and Sentinel on a 10/10 space unit is amazing. Yeah. So a really strong capital ship for the command villainy deck. This card was actually also spoiled by Brad Ballard on YouTube. And this content creator also spoiled another card, which is the Ardent Sympathizer, which is a ground unit, 3-cost aggression, with a stat line of 3/3 and the trooper trait. And it has the ability, while you have the initiative, this unit gets +2/+0.
Yeah. So another aggression card that cares about having the initiative.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when you don't have the initiative, it's a little bit overpriced for the stat line.
Yeah.
However, when you do have the initiative, it's a great card.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a little bit like the A-Wing, for instance.
Yeah.
So when you meet the requirement, it actually becomes a little bit better than what you pay for. But when it doesn't meet the requirements, it becomes a little bit worse than what you pay for.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think a nice card. If you have the initiative, of course, it's a great card. Also really aggressive.
So the next card is an event card with the Vigilance Villainy aspect. A 4-cost, search your feelings. And it says, search your deck for a card, then draw it, and shuffle your deck.
Yeah. So this card was actually spoiled by Scroll, also on YouTube. So again, check out the video if you want to see the reveal. The first tutor in Star Wars Unlimited.
Yeah.
I think it's a nice card because it doesn't specify what cards that you...
What type of cards.
What type of cards you can search. So it can be a unit, an event, an upgrade.
Yeah.
So it doesn't specify what aspect the card needs. So I think that's what makes this card strong.
Yeah.
You can search any card in your deck.
A search engine is always nice to have.
Yeah.
It's a 4-cost, which can be pricey, especially early game. Very strong ability, I would say.
Yeah, and also Vigilance Villainy. We already saw cards that, for instance, care about units that are damaged. So this is a nice card if you need a card to damage your own unit, for instance. You can search for the Death Trooper.
Yeah.
So once we get more combos and cards that rely on other cards, then this becomes stronger.
Yeah.
So I think tutors become stronger once the card pool gets bigger because we get more combos.
Yeah.
So actually another card spoiled on YouTube is the Mining Guild TIE Fighter, which is a space unit, 1-cost Cunning Aspect with a stat line of 1/2, with the traits Fringe Vehicle Fighter, and the unattack ability, you may pay 2 resources if you do draw a card.
Yeah.
So the stat line is also average for a 1-cost space unit. It's the opposite of the TIE Fighter, which is a 2/1. And
I would say I like that a little bit better. I'm also an aggressive player, so maybe that's why.
Yeah, the unattack ability, drawing a card is always good. Paying 2 is... Yeah. I think, for instance, aggression is the aspect that draws cards, and they do it a little bit better, which I think suits the aggression aspect. They pay 3 to draw 2. So aggression actually draws a card for 1.5 as resources. And now you have to pay 2 resources to draw a card. So I think it suits the aggression aspect that they can draw better. And I think it's really a cunning aspect thing that they also have access to drawing cards, but just they do it a little bit worse.
Yeah.
So I think cunning will be an aspect that just does a lot of things, but just a little bit, the other aspects do it a little bit better.
Yeah. And there's also, of course, a small synergy with the Boba Fett leader. So you pay the 2 and then you have the possibility to restand 2.
Yeah. And also if you survive the first attack for a reason, you can actually get a second trigger with this. So the next turn you can again draw a card.
And with that was actually the first cunning card. And from now on there will only be cunning cards that we're going to talk about.
Yeah.
And they showed a lot of cunning cards in the live that they broadcasted. There were some cards that they revealed before the live.
Yeah.
But we will just include them in our talk about cunning.
Yeah, from now on it will be only cunning cards.
Yeah.
So the cunning live. We got a lot of information about the aspect cunning. Tyler talked about the design philosophy of Cunning a little bit. So I always like those design thoughts that they provide with these lives, but also on Twitter in general, some behind the scenes. So Cunning will be with surprises, being unpredictable, and a lot of tricks. So to me, it really sounds like the yellow color in Star Wars Destiny a little bit. It sounds familiar. So I think that's also why I looked forward to this live, because yellow was my favorite color in Destiny. So I cannot wait to play Cunning in Star Wars Unlimited.
Yeah. So I also actually really liked what they said about Cunning, is that it feels like you're cheating a bit.
Yeah.
And it also embodies really the characters. That they are the bounty hunters, the smugglers, the scummy characters.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, it suits the characters, definitely, yeah. So Cunning is also the aspect that you don't want your opponent to be able to execute their plan. So Cunning is also the aspect that cares about events or interacts with events, like we see with the boss unit, for instance, or some cards that we're going to talk about later, which is also a nice thing.
Yeah, it also has units, of course, but it cares more about the events.
Well, it is the aspect that cares most about the events. They have access to Saboteur, but just less than aggression. So again, this is something like they do something that another aspect also does, but the other aspect does it a little bit better. They have a lot of access to cheap space units, because they also talked about Cunning units don't want to be interfered with. They just want to do their thing, and they don't want to be blocked, or for instance, or so a lot of units in space is actually a way to do that. So some units will get blocked, of course, but most of them will just go through.
Yeah, and they also have a lot of on-play effects.
Yeah. So what they also talked about is Cunning also has access to discarding, but in Cunning it will be random, and in other aspects it will be a little bit more direct.
Yeah. So with other aspects, the player itself who has to discard can choose their card.
Yeah.
And for the most cards with Cunning, it's random, except for one card that we're going to talk about later.
Yeah, so I think that was all the information that we got from Cunning. A nice live, a lot of new information, a lot of new cards. So something that I want to add is something that we didn't see in this live was a promo version of a Cunning card, whether it's a hyperspace version or the weekly OP. I really wanted to see another weekly OP promo, just because the two promos that we got are both aggression, heroism, so the borders are the same. I would love to see, what the border would look like on a Cunning aspect, for instance. It was just something that I wished we saw in this live. So yeah, actually the next card that we are going to talk about is the Lothal Insurgent, which was spoiled by the Spy Squadron on YouTube, which is another ground unit, 2-cost Cunning Heroism, with the stat line of 3-2 and the Rebel trait. And it has a when played effect. If you played another card this phase, each opponent draws a card, then discards a random card from their hand. So this is a typical example, like the discard is random. So yeah, when I first saw this card, I immediately thought that this would become a strong card once we get access to look at your opponent's hand in Heroism. We have the probe droid, of course, in the villain aspect that looks at your opponent's hand. But that's a nice combo with this card, of course, because you meet the requirement of playing another card this round, and then you can determine is it worth to discard a card from that hand or not. So it's still random, but you just have a little bit more information to decide if it's worth to discard a card or not. The stat line is good. It's just a normal stat line at 3-2 for a 2-cost. So I think with a card like this, the timing is crucial. So when the timing isn't correct, this card can feel weak. But once you get a hang of it and get the timing correct, then this card actually becomes really powerful. Knowing when to play this card is crucial. So players that have more knowledge about the game and the game state benefit more from cards like this.
Yeah, because with a bad timing, it can actually help your opponent.
For instance.
If you have a bad hand, for example, and they just draw the card that they need. Yeah. But on average, I think it's a nice card.
It's a nice card, yeah. And it will be stronger against certain decks, of course. Combo heavy decks, this is amazing against them. So yeah, I think a nice card. So the next card that we're going to talk about is actually the rare base for Cunning. So the 25 health base. With the epic action, give a non-leader unit -4, -0 this phase.
So actually not sure what I think about this card, to be honest. You do have some versatility in it, so you can protect units, but you sacrifice 1 point of health actually on your your base.
Yeah, but I think that 1 health is worth the versatility, in my opinion. Because, like you said, you can do it to protect your units, and in worst case, you just use it to protect your base and you only lose 1 health. So I think just the versatility is what makes this card strong. So if you go for this base or just the regular 30 health base, it's something that we have to see. And maybe there will be other cards that interact with this or also lower the attack value of your opponent. So if you can stack them, then this becomes stronger, of course. So I think just a nice base for Cunning.
Yeah, I do think that other rare bases of different aspects are stronger.
Yeah. Okay, so then the next card is an event. 2-cost Cunning Villainy. No good to me dead. Exhaust the unit. That unit can't ready this round, including during the regroup phase.
Yeah. Sounds nice.
Yeah.
It's specifically made to go well with Boba Fett.
Yeah, the 2 resource cost.
Yeah. Also the artwork.
The artwork
is very nice and suits Boba Fett.
Yeah.
And what I also do like is that it's just unit and not non-leader unit. So you can actually also exhaust a leader unit.
Yeah.
Which, is very strong.
Yeah. Yeah, and like you said, it's nice that this combos with Boba Fett. For the people that don't know, Boba Fett restands 2 resources when it defeats a unit.
Yeah.
So you can actually use those resources to pay this event. So yeah, I think overall a nice inclusion for the Cunning Villainy, and definitely when you play Boba Fett, it becomes stronger.
Yeah. And also a nice low-cost event for Bosk, for example.
Yeah.
So the Cunning Villainy deck is shaping up.
Yeah, definitely. The next card is another event, a 2-cost, but this time it's Cunning Heroism. Spark of Rebellion. Look at your opponent's hand and discard a card from it. So another way to discard a card.
To be honest, I think this is one of my favorite cards so far.
Yeah, and this goes perfectly with Lothal Insurgents. Like I mentioned before, the Lothal Insurgent will become a lot stronger once you get the ability to look at your opponent's hands. And this is exactly what you want. So when you play Spark of Rebellion, you meet the requirement of playing another card this round. Then look at your opponent's hand, discard a card from it already, and then with Lothal Insurgents, discard another card. Of course, in between they can draw one, but still, discarding 2 cards from their hand is nice. So yeah, another low-cost event.
Yeah, I think this is an auto-include if you have the Heroism Cunning aspects in your deck.
I agree.
Also, Hera gets access to this card. It's a Spectre event.
Yeah, it's a Spectre trait.
So very nice.
Yeah, really strong card. And so if you play this together with the Lothal Insurgent, you need 4 resources. You can play this, at the beginning of the game. So discarding is always strong at the start of the game because you know that their hand is strong. Because otherwise they would have mulligans, for instance. So really nice.
Yeah.
So the next card that we are going to talk about is actually the legendary event, Cunning. So the double aspect legendary that every aspect has. So it's a 4-cost. Choose 2 in any order. Return a non-leader unit with 4 or less power to its owner's hand. Give a unit +4/+0 for this phase. Exhaust up to 2 units. and an opponent discards a random card from their hand.
Yeah.
So another way to discard a card from your opponent's hand. Yeah, I think this is a really strong card, and in my opinion, it's the strongest legendary of the double aspect legendaries that we get.
Okay.
Or that we got so far.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that's just my opinion.
Yeah. Also, the designers themselves were very excited about this card.
Yeah.
They even said that it was their favorite card in the first set. So yeah, and if the designers say something like that, it must be a strong card.
It must be a strong card, yeah.
So yeah, what I do like about it is it's very versatile. It has very different kind of abilities that you can choose from. So yeah, the versatility is very great.
Yeah. It's strong in a lot of different situations.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can do a lot of things. Yeah, so like I said, another card that discards a card from your opponent's hand, returning a unit with 4 power or less to your opponent's hand, then making them discard it, maybe, because it is random.
Yeah.
That's just a thing that you can do.
Could you also combo it with the base then? So -4 a card, then meeting the requirement of 4 or less, and then bumping it back to their hand.
That's actually a good question.
If it's the base or the remaining power that they have.
I know that they talked about resource cost this way. So if you could lower the resource cost of something and a card refers to a resource cost, then it always refers to the printed resource cost. But I don't know if it also, works this way for the power. So I think it's a good question to ask the designers.
Yeah. For the next live, we'll have a question already.
So actually, the designers of Unlimited are doing a Q&A on Twitter.
Okay.
The 15th of November. So it's a good question to ask there.
And if you have any questions, be sure to tune in.
Yeah, definitely. I think we'll have to see if it's worth to go the double aspect on Cunning. Or is it worth to play this card for 6? We'll just have to see. The next card that we are going to talk about is another ground unit. Greedo, actually. It's 1 cost, 1 aspect, 3/1 ground unit. With the traits Underworld Bounty Hunter and the when defeated ability, you may discard a card from your deck. If it's not a unit, deal 2 damage to a ground unit. So in the live, they explained that discarding a card from your deck is actually just discarding a top card of your deck.
Yeah.
So it's not a guaranteed 2 damage. Really strong for a 1 cost.
Yeah. For a 1 cost, there's a nice stat line.
Yeah.
And the added ability is even better.
Yeah.
So if you compare it, for instance, to the Death Star Stormtrooper,
it
has the same stat line, but the Stormtrooper is a double aspect.
Yeah,
so
it's
aggression, villainy.
Yeah.
Greedo is just cunning, and also has an ability.
Yeah.
So it's just point for point better.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. So I think that we also know in Star Wars Unlimited there will be ways to stack your deck, for instance with R2-D2. So if Cunning gets access to cards like that, you can guarantee the Greedo trigger when he is defeated. So then it only becomes better.
Yeah.
So the next card that we're going to talk about is another ground unit. A 5 cost Cunning unit. So again a neutral card with a stat line of 5/4 and it traits Underworld and it has Ambush.
Yeah, they mentioned that this card is specifically designed for draft. And it also has an amazing stat line for draft.
Yeah.
Just doing flat damage with Ambush is very strong. They weren't sure about how much it will see play in competitive standard decks, which I do agree, but still for a 5, having a 5/4 stat line is nice.
So I think actually when you compare this to another 5 cost single aspect unit, Agent Callus for instance, which has a stat line of 4/4, also Ambush, that's why it's great to compare them. So you actually gain a point in power, so it becomes a 5/4 instead of a 4/4, but you lose of course the effect of Agent Callus, drawing a card when a unique unit is defeated.
Yeah. Also being a different aspect of course.
Yeah. But I think you can see that, I think it's just an okay card, 5 cost for the 5/4 Ambush.
Yeah, especially for draft.
especially for draft, yeah. And like you said, we just have to see how strong this will be in constructed. Yeah. So those were actually the cards that were revealed during the live. Then we got another two cunning cards that were revealed by Artificery on YouTube. So I know Artificery from Star Wars Destiny. So it's great to see another content creator from Star Wars Destiny transfer to Unlimited.
Yeah.
So always nice. And they actually spoiled two cards. So the first one is another ground unit. It's an ISB agent, a 1-cost Cunning Villainy aspect with a stat line of 1/3 with Imperial trait. And the when played effect, you may reveal an event from your hand. If you do, deal a damage to a unit.
Yeah.
So another card that interacts with events.
And of course, you can reveal it and afterwards play it. So you don't give your opponent that much information.
Yeah.
So yeah, again, I would prefer to have the stat line switched. So having a 3/1 instead of a 1/3.
Yeah. So the last card that we are actually going to talk about is a space unit, a 3-cost Cunning Villainy, the 7th Fleet Defender with a stat line of 3/2 and the traits Imperial Vehicle Fighter, and it has the shielded keyword.
Yeah. So for a space unit, the stat line for a 3-cost is very strong.
Yeah.
And having the keyword shielded, so coming into play with a shield, is amazing.
Yeah, it's nice.
So on the first attack, not receiving any damage back, it's very nice. And the artwork is also top notch.
Yeah, I really like the artwork. So I actually looked at the artist for this card, and the artist is François Canons.
Okay.
I don't know how to pronounce the last name, so I'm sorry for butchering that. But he actually did the art for a lot of space units. So for instance, the Distant Patroller, the Imperial Interceptor, the A-Wing, the Millennium Falcon, the X-Wing, and the Shield Token. And if I looked him up on the internet, and he does a lot of vehicles and ships and sci-fi art. You really see that the choices of artists are on purpose for these cards. So for instance, in this case, this artist is really good at drawing vehicles. And like we saw with the artist from Jeddah City, which is Rocio Espin. Again, sorry for butchering the name. But he, for instance, is specialized in drawing historical cities.
Okay.
So to give him a city is... so they really thought about which artist did the design for the specific cards.
Yeah, it sounds like that they really thought it through very thoroughly. Smart decision. Because artwork for a card game is very important. To me, especially. If the artwork isn't nice, I'm not really interested in the game. There are some games that are really nice in mechanics, but if the artwork doesn't appeal to me, I'm not really attracted to the game.
Yeah.
So of course, Star Wars,
the IP itself
is amazing.
Yeah.
But still very important.
Yeah, I totally agree. The artwork is important. So that was actually the last card.
Yeah.
And with that, also almost at the end of this video.
Yeah. Something I do want to add though, is talking about the artwork, is that during the live we saw an artwork that we haven't seen on a card before. It's the Lando.
Oh yeah.
In the back of the room, which also looked very nice.
Yeah.
So excited to see what the card really entails.
Yeah, it gave me a little bit of the feeling that Lando maybe is going to be a neutral card. It looked a little bit villainy.
I get what you mean. Yeah.
Maybe it's just because there were stormtroopers in the back. It doesn't have to say anything about Lando itself, but it gave me a little bit scummy vibes.
Yeah, true.
Which is totally,
of course.
Lando is a gambler, and he definitely suits the cunning aspect really well. I would say. So before we close, to get back on the designer Q&A. So it's going to be on November the 15th at 3 p.m. CST and 10 p.m. CET time. So if you have any questions about the gameplay for the designers, please check Twitter on the 15th of November. We already have a question for them.
So
also one thing that I want to quickly talk about is, I think it was Golden Dice podcast that talked about it on Twitter, that with the reveal of the 7th Fleet Defender and the ISB agent, we get a little bit of hints that maybe Tron is going to be our coming villainy leader.
It would be amazing.
Yeah, because he's of course associated with the Defender and the ISB agents. We know that Tron is going to be in the game. We already saw his art.
Yeah.
So we don't know if it's a leader unit or an event, of course. But we know that the art is in the set 1. And I really liked the connection with the ISB agents and the Defender and Tron, of course, and Star Wars Rebels. So yeah, I think that was a good point. And fingers crossed, actually. I would love to play with Tron as a leader. So yeah, that was just the last thing that I wanted to quickly touch upon. So yeah, I think with that, we can close this video.
Yeah.
So again, thank you everyone for watching.
Yeah.
And if you like this video, please comment, like, and subscribe to our channel. And stay tuned for our 4th episode later this month.
Yeah.
So have a nice day. Thank you for watching, and may the Force be with you.
Bye.